Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here, looking at the markets today. It's good to see the bulls showing up. They defended that $3,600 level we were looking at yesterday. The double bottom pattern that I pointed out in my last video has absolutely been confirmed. Just to recap, we were looking at a low being set here just above that $3,600 level, and we were looking at a downtrend. The EMAs were starting to squeeze the price here on this 4-hour chart. Price did find near-term resistance around that 4K mark, and those are really the two levels to be noting here. I was saying if we can get back above 4K, would really confirm this picture, get the moving averages back over each other, and this is the first time since the big breakdown that we've seen the 10 EMA getting above the 22 EMA here on this 4-hour chart. You also saw a clear of multiple resistance levels. First, that $4,000 mark, then that $4,200 level that we were watching here. It did pause a little bit there today, but has continued higher here. If we go to the 1-hour chart, you can see just how strong the volume was on this initial move. The big volume came in right here as prices just pushed right through that 38.50 mark, right into that 4K zone, right to this near-term resistance. They paused just before that, and then they broke out and have continued higher through most of the day. So very much in an uptrend here on this hourly chart, looking very strong. I would caution that it is a little bit extended here near term, and you know what I always say, don't chase these. If you didn't already find a good opportunity to enter, if you didn't enter on one of these little pauses or bull flags, give it some time to either settle out or look for a retracement of some sort. It's usually how I approach it. I'm still holding my BTC. I did scale in on my trading account completely here at these lows around $3,700, and I held through this first little rally through the pullback and have held through this entire run up here today. So still looking pretty good. My intention again is to look for those alt BTC pairs to trade those names that are outperforming Bitcoin and continue to hold Bitcoin here near term. So still looking pretty good. If we go to the daily chart, a couple of things to note. We did mention that the MACD was ticking up higher yesterday, and it was just continuing to show that the selling momentum had started to wane. RSI was also starting to turn the corner, and today we're seeing some confirmation of that, but it's simply just a bounce. So let's keep that in mind. This is good. This is bullish. It's nice to see that double bottom. The bulls stepped in. They defended that support level, but in the big picture, this is a bounce that was way overdue considering the big pullback we had. And so right now we're moving right into this moving average pair. The next level to be looking up is around that 4,800 mark, and between there 4,500. If you do a measured move on that double bottom on the 4-hour chart, conservative target was around 4,350, 4,400, and then above that 4,500 was really the number that a lot of folks are looking at. A lot of folks in my group have mentioned that 4,500 level, and that level lines up. It makes sense. It's right in the middle of these two zones. It's really the next price resistance on this daily chart. Let me clear those indicators for us. And another thing I want to note here is if you do a Fibonacci retracement on this bounce, you can see that the 382 level lines up pretty well with this prior highs on the daily chart as well as the next resistance level. So that's something to be watching here. If this rally continues, going into that $4,500 mark is where I would start to see some more pause action, potentially a little bit of a pullback. On the 1-hour chart, it is extended. On the 4-hour chart, has room to run. It is a bit extended from even the 10 EMA now, so just remain cautious there. If you're looking to make these trades, we're right smack in the middle of the next resistance zone here, just above this little area, right below this prior part that broke down here. Prices are sitting right there. So this little window here really is what I would call kind of the take profit zone, the tighten up the stop zone, however you want to call it, if you're trading this bounce. If you're looking at a longer term time frame, if you think the low is in, then really nothing to do. This is day one of the move off the low. It could continue higher, absolutely. It could go up to 4,800, and then we set a higher low on the daily pullback. It's just a lot of ways it could go. Right now, I'm holding. I'm looking at the altcoins as potential movers that are outperforming. So let's go take a look at a few of those names. Before we do, real quick, looking at the coin market cap, you can see here we've added almost $30 billion just here in the last couple of days. We hit a low of around $115 billion a few days ago. And then with this rally today, very nice move up right back into the 140 billion plus mark. And this move has been very strong in Bitcoin, kind of quiet considering, but I mean, today was a 15% plus day so far. The day is not quite over here on this candle, but from the lows yesterday to today. I mean, you're looking at a 20+% gain in Bitcoin just very quickly, and nice to see that finally. Look good, a good change of pace from what we've seen over the last couple of weeks of just these very weak and anemic bounces that just fizzled out. This is really the first strong bounce. I would have loved to see much higher volume. Volume is above average, so definitely positive, but it not, not stellar volume, not this massive spike off the lows, but nonetheless, price action is very good and it is confirming. Going back to the market cap here, just looking at the coin dominance real quick, you can see the Bitcoin dominance numbers still relatively flat. So you're seeing a participation across the board. And more interestingly, you're seeing the mid to small cap names showing much bigger percentage moves than you are seeing some of the large caps like ETH and Ripple. In fact, Ripple's pulling in a little bit versus Bitcoin, and some of these others are pulling in, while some of these small cap names are really showing some big percentage moves to the upside, which is good to see. Let's go look at a few of those here. So first off, looking at Ethereum, you can see here over the last couple of days, it's really just held par with Bitcoin, not underperforming, but not outperforming either, just sitting tight here in this little range. On the dollar pair is certainly moving higher as Bitcoin moves higher. Versus Bitcoin, it is trying to put in a low, so something to watch here. I'm looking at this little range that it's in right now. If it can start to edge out of this range, that'd be positive on the low end. Got to watch this most recent lows as your near-term support. Looking at Litecoin, it has outperformed over the last couple of days, pausing a little bit here today, but still trending higher, still above the moving averages, making higher highs and higher lows. So until that changes, you got to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it's looking good versus BTC here. On this daily chart, it's had a nice bounce, showing some pause finally here today. At the peak was up about 14% above the move versus Bitcoin, so has had a nice rally off the lows. On the USD pair, this one did bottom out around $27, and it is moving nicely off the lows. Now it's back up to about $35, so looking pretty good here near term. I'm still keeping an eye on Ripple, but has not broken out of this downtrend yet. It's testing support again, testing this breakout point. So this is really the zone that I'm watching right now, is can it start to reverse off of this level and ultimately break this little downtrend that it's in. If you go to the 4-hour chart, you can see hasn't really done much in terms of outperformance versus Bitcoin. Still holding par for the most part, drifting lower here a little bit today as Bitcoin rallies. Not a huge spike lower, but I want to see it maintain this support level around that 9,000 level or so, at most about 8,800. But if it can get above this downtrend resistance that it's seen here over the last couple of days, that may signal that the end of the pullback is complete and ready to run again. I'm watching Dash here as it tightens up in this little pattern here, really consolidating. The price range is becoming very narrow. The volume patterns are looking pretty bullish here as well. You're seeing some spikes off the lows. Hasn't broken out yet, but definitely something to be keeping an eye on here for a potential breakout. Tron had a big move today out of nowhere, just off the lows, and so many of these, they really don't forecast much. They're literally moves off the lows. They break this downtrend just very suddenly on massive volume, and that's good to see that we're starting to see more and more of these. We started to see them yesterday, which signaled a little bit of a potential low in Bitcoin. I mentioned that look out for the alts. If you start to see more and more of these altcoins popping off the lows, it may be signaling that Bitcoin is getting close to a low or may have found its low. And sure enough, that's what we ended up seeing. And with the renewed confidence going back into Bitcoin, you're seeing some of these other alts continue to outperform. Tron was one of them. I'm keeping an eye on this one for a potential secondary entry. It's getting a little volatile here near these recent highs today, but big move off the low, big volume off the on the 4-hour chart here. But if you go to the daily, again, it's a relatively small move in the daily chart considering the big move that it's had. Good percentage wise, but it's just getting started really in the daily chart. Another one is Stratus, also putting in a good low versus Bitcoin and showing some decent volume on this move here today. You can see it broke out of this little range here on very strong volume, pausing here a little bit. If you go to that 1-hour chart, kind of consolidating right now near term. And again, most of these, when they bust out of range initially, that RSI shoots way up to the top here and it pauses, it pulls back a little bit, but still looking pretty good. Now going to the daily chart again, this is just a bounce into that EMA, but it is turning the corner. It had made its ultimate low. There was a big wick down here a few days ago, last week, and still showing some positive action here on this daily chart. But in the big picture on all of these, look at the bigger picture for where the next major resistance level lies. And those are going to really be the hurdles that prices need to start overcoming in terms of turning the bigger picture, the downward trend that many of these have been in. And so you see here Stratus, for example, this is, that 2000 level up to around that 2100 level is really the next resistance zone to be watching on this one if it continues higher. If it continues to go right through that level and start making a pattern of higher lows, very positive to see for the longer term charts. Another one here is 0x, and I shared this chart with the group here a couple of days ago as it started to edge out. I missed my entry and have completely missed this move. I hope some of you guys caught this move, but it's very nice here, looking pretty good here versus BTC, up about 8% here just today versus Bitcoin, so outperforming nicely and breaking out of this little wedge pattern here today. And finally, Icon. Now, Icon had that big move off the low after a huge drop, down something like 95%, 99% off the old highs. And so it has just been pummeled and maybe finally has found a little bit of a low here. You can see the volume spiking here near the lows and having a pretty good day today as well. But again, just a big move off the lows. I like the volume patterns here that are showing up. So this one's looking pretty good. You can see here on the hourlies, it is trending higher. But again, big move off the lows, but looking good all around. The picture is starting to change here in the near term. Many of these alts are really starting to pop off the lows. And so don't need to FOMO into any of these. Just be patient, watch Bitcoin, see how the alts react on any Bitcoin retracements. But overall, it's good to see that the bears defended that $3,600 level. If we go back to the BTC chart, that was really the key level we needed to be watching here in the near term. That 3,600 support, we saw multiple attempts below it and they were quickly bought up, which is good to see. And that move that broke out here today was also simultaneously breaking this big downtrend that we're seeing, and you can see that broke out on some good volume. And so all in all, positive day today, good for the bulls. You're seeing some short covering in regards to this, which is not surprising. Once we started to see more upside confirmation, the bears were starting to scramble, covering the short positions. And so that's certainly adding some fuel to this rally. So just wanted to bring that quick update. For those of you that have been past members of our Node Insiders group, there is a significant discount for renewing members of the Slack community. So you have to be a prior member or current member of the group. So go check that out. I've posted it multiple times within the Slack channel. I'll send something out to you guys. Keep an eye out for that. For those of you that are interested in joining us, I will update this site here today, nodeinvestor.com training. There's a link to the Insiders group there with more information, and you'll be able to renew. We'll be kicking off next week the December monthly group. And so this week is kind of the sign up week for those that are interested. Appreciate you guys watching. I will keep you all posted. Until next time, happy trading, everyone. Take care.